Too.
What?
Indentured servitude, we called
Where?
it.
Where?
The New England mills. Up near where I live, people were indentured servants the until the early 40s.
Really? I'd love to
Yep.
read up on that part of history because
They
his.
had they called it they factories up here in Rhode Island and Massachusetts would pay for European immigrants
Uh,
to come over because you used to have either a job
or
or a
sponsor.
family member here
Yeah.
to come. And what they'd do, they'd set you up with housing and food and everything, but they'd also make it so your bills that you had to buy, they'd pay you in script
Yeah.
from the company store,
Yeah.
and you had to pay them back for your travel expenses and everything. But you could only buy your food off them and your housing off them, and they made it just expensive enough you could never pay off your travel expenses.
Interesting.
So it's slavery in all ways, but in name.
Well, it's not slavery in all ways, but name because slavery didn't even give them any rights at all. But being
Oh,
indentured is a practice that is just it's nearly as bad, but there is a difference. There is a difference. Being a slave is one thing. Being indentured,
even what most people called Southern slavery was actually indentured too, because most, not all, but most of the Southern slave masters gave at least on paper, gave their slaves the right to buy their freedom.
yeah. Either way, it happened. It's
Yeah,
done and over with, and
I'm a big military history buff.
yeah, so am I. So am I. I studied it in school, in fact, along with my nuclear engineering stuff.
Hmm. I always hate going back and reading Roman history. Recently, I just got done listening to the Rise and Fall of Rome again. I have
Yeah,
it on Audible as an audiobook.
that's the USA right now.
Yep.
We are headed for it, and people are too stupid to figure it out.
The audiobook is 172 hours long.
Ah, damn.
Yep. It goes from the founding of Rome all the way to the final collapse
Yep,
of the Eastern Empire. So,
yep. The sad part is the generations causing all of this, they're going to wake up in their 50s and wonder what the hell happened to the U.S. and that, and they're going to deny that they were the actual cause of it. That's what's going to happen. I guarantee you. They're going to wake up in their 50s and they're going to deny, even though they know in their soul they caused it. They're going to deny it right and left.
the thing is, though, it all started with the greatest generation not wanting their kids to ever want anything in life.
Not the great, no, not the greatest generation.
Yeah,
The no,
because
no, no,
the
not
great
yeah. You're wrong on that one. That is,
no, because
it's nope.
the
You're wrong.
boomers.
It's the boomers that wanted it.
Yes, but who were the greatest generation's parents?
The greatest generation is prior World War II, not the boomers.
Yes, that's what I'm
Boomers,
saying. But those are their parents, and what happened was they had so little growing up. They gave the boomers everything they ever
nope,
wanted.
nope, nope. You are wrong. That one you're
Uh,
wrong on. That I know because I'm a boomer, and I know the
I
history,
know,
and I know the
I know a lot
history.
of I know a lot of entitled boomers.
They're I didn't say there wasn't entitled boomers. What I'm saying is the greatest generation did not do that to their children. The boomers did. It's our generation that actually coddled to our children. We're the ones that in the 70s and 80s, well, not me, I was still a kid in the 70s and 80s, but it's the generation, my generation as it became adult, as well as the 60s hippies, are the ones that started the whole trend against spanking your kids and coddling them and making everybody a winner. And it became the primary thing throughout the late 80s and the 90s. And
But
it's
you
that
know, yeah,
generation that switched it all.
the
Um,
way the way I the thing is the way I see it is, right, it was all meant in good intentions, but the people that lived through World War II and the Great Depression, unfortunately ended up, through good intentions, accidentally making the friggin' next generation that making everything crazy.
No,
Wasn't
it
on
was. It's
purpose.
that the greatest generation had nothing to do with that. The greatest
Uh,
generation was they tried to instill the fact that people should still remain self-sufficient and patriotic. When the late 50s and the 60s boom started, they stepped up and tried to keep things from getting out of control.
it,
And
it
what
might
en-
be different in different parts of the country because at least up here, that's how it's. I mean, all these.
you realize that the greatest generation won World War II,
Yeah,
okay?
and that
And
I was saying, but that's the problem I have. They wanted after it, they struggled themselves and they wanted their kids to have a better life and they gave too much
no,
too fast
that is actually
and
not
they
what happened.
got spoiled.
My parents were born to the greatest generation, and their parents, and my parents, and everybody that I know where I grew up and was raised, the statewide and wherever, everybody had the same thing until my generation was born. And when my generation came along, we are the kids of the boomers, and we are the ones that started changing it all. It did not start until my generation came along. When my
As I said,
generation came along,
different
we're the ones that started this.
as I said, different parts of the country might be different, but up here in New England, the boomers were the first generation to start all the hardcore liberal shit up in this part of the country.
Maybe liberal shit, but not
Uh,
not not the stuff that we're dealing with today. That didn't start until my generation, which was the
no, look,
early 60s.
the
The
politicians we're having here right now. We have a lot of good politicians in their late 70s and 80s.
if you go actually
A lot
read,
of boomer politicians that are hardcore liberal, and they're the ones bringing this shit up in the
nope,
Northeast.
if you go read the actual history, you're going to find out that it was the generation of the 60s mainly that turned the tide. It was the hippies and the anti-war movement and a whole bunch of other shit in the 60s that started the change. And in the 70s is when the movement started for climate change and for no more spanking of children and so on and so forth. Actually, seriously, you pull up the history text on when when liberalism really took hold and started out, and you'll understand because the greatest generation had nothing to do with it. My parents' generation were the last generation before this all started, and I'm
Different parts of
of
the country
that.
might be different because, like I agree. My grandfather was he's passed on now. He was a World War II vet, but he was all on board with all this hardcore leftist shit going on.
Well, and he's a rare, because liberalism didn't even become a word or a thing until almost 1970. And that's in the history
And,
books.
yeah, what I'm saying is like up here in New England, it happened sooner than most of the rest of the country. So
Why am I running back and forth? Yeah,
because
it's my
New
generation
England
that started
is
it.
weird.
It's the 60s
Thing.
generation that started it, and the ones born, uh, the teens of the 50s and early 60s. I was born in the 60s, so I wasn't old enough to actually be a part of that part. But it's the ones that became of age in the late 50s, early 60s are the ones that started this whole ridiculous bullshit. And the thing that really pushed it over the edge was Vietnam. And then they started taking on all these other causes and all this other shit that they wanted to change. And then the Cold War started heating up, and they became anti-Cold War and anti-nuke and anti-this. And then in the early 70s, the very first hint of, oh my God, climate change. And that came from the oil
Yeah.
disaster. And
Hey,
it
as like
snowballed from there.
up here in New England, that started with World War II vets. Unfortunately, pretty much happened. about 10, 15 years earlier than the rest of the country.
By well, the history books don't say that. I mean, they're very exact and very, because that's what I studied. Like I said, is history,
Yeah,
and
I mean,
they're very.
I know it from firsthand experience and working with
Uh,
older veterans and
I've never seen that. I mean,
yeah, like up here in Rhode Island, Massachusetts area, and we had like the first generation of the first post generation of friggin' anti-war. We actually had a big movement up here in Rhode Island of World War II vets against Vietnam.
well, yeah, there's always vets against things. I mean, we've got veterans that have served with me that came back out and started going against Iraq and Afghanistan, and now they go
I was
against
thinking
conservative.
it was bigger than normal, but like the Midwest and more conservative parts of the country.
Yeah, and that may be. I mean, I'm not from there, so I can't
Yeah,
say. But I'm
I don't
I'm
think
going
this part of
I'm
the
going
country
based
was.
on what's in the history books.
I know the Midwest has stayed conservative a lot longer than.
Oh, we're what gets me, what tickles us or makes us laugh up here is how many people think Wisconsin is liberal or left. We're not. We're not even close. It's like we've got two cities, two small cities of less than, well, Madison is about 180,000 people, and Milwaukee is around 250,000 or maybe a little more. They're the two liberal cities we have, and Madison is the capital as well.
And
Every
because
other
how
county, every
everything works, the cities destroy everything. Like New York State. New York State is like mostly conservative, but the big cities are liberal. So
yeah. But what I'm getting at is every other county, there's 72 counties. The other 70 are pure red.
yeah,
And other than once in a while, we'll have some of the suburb
yeah,
counties of Milwaukee will vote blue. And the other thing people don't know is that we're one of only a handful of states that has always been constitutional. We've never
hmm
not been. We've always been able to conceal and open carry weapons, whether on our person, in our cars, whatever, doesn't matter. We've always been middle of the road when it comes to voting and all that kind of shit. But people try to label our state, and we just laugh at them because it's like, are you kidding me? You're not
I
even
mean,
close to.
because states get labeled on how their presidential vote has gone the year before. So
Yeah, and it's well, they kept calling us liberal even when we voted for Trump. But here in this state, the people vote based on the person. We don't vote based on politics. And
yeah,
I don't think
up here, but a lot of states like up here on Island, we still have friggin' party line voting allowed, and a good portion of the population just checks one box,
see
the Democrat box,
we
walks
don't even
away.
we don't even know what that kind of I mean, I know what it is, but for the most
Yeah,
part here, they have no idea what that even is.
a lot of places, we've been trying to ban it here forever, but
Yeah, it's like here we just follow the Constitution, and this is what the Constitution says, and that's it. And now we've got liberals here trying to actually change our laws against that are actually following the Constitution. And of course, we're not allowing it, but it's ridiculous that these people want to change our state and go against what the actual
yeah.
Constitution says, and it's written in our state constitution.
What annoys me is like here on Island, technically, like we were the most libertarian state ever until like the 1940s, then it all of a sudden switched to the other side.
Yeah,
Like even before the Revolutionary War, we were actually the first state to declare independence, or first colony to declare independence from the crown. We burned a ship called the Gaspee over a year before Bunker Hill. It
hmm.
was a taxation ship. It came here because the state hadn't paid taxes in 10 years.
Yeah, I don't know anything about that.
Yeah, look
I
up
just,
The burning of the HMS Gatsby. It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah. Yeah, each state has its own unique history, but I just get a kick out of how many people seem to try to label us as something that we're not even close to being, and it's funny as hell. You know, it's the other thing that I get a kick out of is when people get in discussions and they talk about Wisconsin having been a turning point for this last election. They say there was no fraud, and we look at them and
No
go,
fraud.
really? Well, then how come the big press conference with a number of sheriff's departments live on TV, what was it, 3 months ago now, showed proof that all 72 counties had fraud in large
Yeah.
amounts? And they're like, I never saw that. That's bullshit. I said, here's the link. Go look it up. Live video from that press conference, them showing the literal fraud in writing. Basically, we have a board that was set up called the Wisconsin Election Commission.
The federal government doesn't do anything about it. It's like Arizona, their election board released that Trump actually won Arizona, but it was
Yeah, I can't speak for any other state. I can only speak for mine. But it's called, the board here was called WEAC. And they literally put out letters to all 72 counties, all voting precincts that state in them, for the purposes of this election, due to COVID, we will be bypassing and not adhering to certain laws regarding election in the state of Wisconsin for the presidential election this year. We will instead be doing this, so this is what we're telling you and ordering you to do and how to do it and blah, blah, blah. This law will not be enforced, this law will not be enforced, this law will not be enforced, and blah, blah. And it's in writing. They frickin' put it in writing. And it was in the press conference. So now there's a big, huge investigation going on here that's by the state and by judges in the state. And who knows how long it's going to take or what the ramifications are going to be. But the left is going apeshit because this panel is being led by a Republican, you know, and they're calling, well, then it'll be biased and it's not going to be fair. And it's like, what, if we put a liberal in there, you think it's going to be biased or fair? No. You know, you can't freaking keep playing that game. It's made up of both sides, left and right, the panel is, and we'll wait and see what they say.
The biggest thing I find weird these days is how they say that it's unconstitutional to require an identification to vote.
I know, that is the biggest and most stupid argument.
I can't buy a beer without an ID, but I can vote for president without an ID.
Yeah, you can't drive a car, can't get married, can't get medical care.
Nope.
But you can vote without one. Right, okay, sure. Now see, the state of Wisconsin, you can't vote without an ID. What I can't figure...
For how liberal Rhode Island is, we require ID too, but they keep fighting it in the state court.
They can't do that here because it's in our Constitution. It was put in our Constitution when the state was founded in 1846. So they've tried to even make a court case, and every time the judge looks at it and says, thrown out.
Unfortunately, like, up here, the courts don't friggin' abide by it, because, like, Rhode Island actually has one of the strictest pro-Second Amendment constitutions in the country. They just simply, it's one line. The right for a person's right to bear arms shall not be infringed by any way, period.
Yeah.
But they have all kinds of anti-gun laws.
How?
And every time they bring it to the Rhode Island Supreme Court, they just shoot down the people that are trying to fight against them.
How can they shoot it down if it's in the Constitution?
Because activist judges.
They can't do that. Then it's grounds. No, it's grounds to go to federal court for a constitutional violation. So why isn't? Because we had it happen here. It's
called the Northeast is fucked up.
Yeah, because they tried that here in Wisconsin, and in almost every case, they finally took it to a judge in Milwaukee and Madison, who tried to let them proceed with it, and it was immediately appealed to the state Supreme Court, And the state Supreme Court said, nope, not happening. It's in the
Because
Constitution.
here in Rhode Island, we only have one district, and it goes directly to the state Supreme Court, and the state Supreme Court's the one that is not following the state constitution.
Well, yeah, but so when our state, in the one case, when the state Supreme Court did that, they then appealed to the federal level, and all the way up to the top until it got to the SCOTUS, and SCOTUS said, "We're not looking at this. It's in their freaking state constitution. We can't touch this. It'd be a violation of the Constitution for us to even take the case."
Yeah, if your case is here never to leave again, it's actually in the Rhode Island state constitution that it's supposed to be shall issue concealed carry permits.
Mm-hmm.
But every single person that wants one in most towns needs to bring it to 3 levels of court before they get the carry permit.
That needs to go to SCOTUS because SCOTUS has already ruled on that.
Yeah, but they don't. It's just like New York. New York's being heard right now for their concealed carry permits.
They're going to get nailed. New York's going to get shut down. I guarantee you. They were already ordered the last time, and they're trying to skirt what the Supreme Court told them. And I guarantee you, they're going to get. State of New York could end up finding out that all of their gun laws are now null and void because they are trying to bypass.
Truthfully, I really hope that happens.
So do I.
Because I get a get out of jail free card.
Yeah. That's exactly. Well, will it? Yeah, but will it be grandfathered?
From how I understand it, from what my lawyer was saying.
Well, SCOTUS would decide that.
If the Supreme Court makes a ruling, it makes it so it's the only way it makes you going to appeal a plea deal.
Yeah. In your case, it'll still have an impact if Supreme Court kills this current law, because transporting a gun is what they got you on.
Yeah.
And if you're transporting a gun and SCOTUS says, hey, people can have a gun outside their home, again, then you're covered. Your case should be dropped.
It should be. That's why, for regular reasons, I hope it gets stomped. But for personal reasons, I hope it gets stomped even more.
Yeah. It's
because I find out on the 5th what happens, how long I have to do probation for.
Yeah. It's
And even the probation officer looked at me when I had to do my interview with her.
Did they?
What shit?
Did they? Fuck. Wasn't paying attention. I just blew myself up. Damn it.
Oh shit! Sorry, man.
Yeah, it's my fault. I wasn't paying attention. Yeah, because SCOTUS already ruled on this with New York. So what New York's doing is changing their wording around, trying to bypass it, and that's why the last one, the Supreme Court turned away because New York dropped the case against the person and dropped the law that they were going after the person with. This time, New York dropped the law too, except SCOTUS said, nope, it's coming to us. And now they're going to find out the hard way when you play games like that. That's why it's even in the Supreme Court. New York tried to do that end around for a second time, and SCOTUS this time said, I don't give a shit if you guys dropped it. You're coming to court. And so now New York could potentially lose all of their freaking anti-gun laws.
Which I really hope.
Well, what should actually happen is...
Technically, they should have never had the laws in the first place.
That's right. And I'm getting sick and tired of people like, well, the states have control. Wrong. The states...
Not over that part.
Right. Anything that is in the Constitution, the states make a law that overrides what's in the Constitution, the SCOTUS then has the power to overrule it.
Yeah. Yes, the 10th Amendment does exist, but it says anything not covered under the Constitution.
Correct.
Yeah, the guns are covered under the Constitution.
Yep. Yep. What gets me is I'll get into discussions with some of these morons, and I'm like, I'll tell you what, I'll give up my Second Amendment if you give up your First Amendment, or your Fifth Amendment, or your Ninth Amendment. Pick one. You give that up, fair trade, right? And they look at you like, no, it's not a fair trade. What do you mean it's not a fair trade? You want to keep your First Amendment. I want to keep my Second Amendment. What's not fair about it?
Yeah, but half these hardcore liberals now don't even want you to keep your First Amendment either.
Yeah, that's true too. But they get all exasperated when you do that because they don't expect somebody to actually go, to actually say, why is the First Amendment more important than the Second? It's not. Where does it say that?
I say it to them all the time.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is, the Second was actually created to defend the First, and they don't even understand that simple concept. The First has no power without the Second Amendment, and they don't get it.
What's that old saying? The U.S. is built on three boxes: the soap box, the ballot box, and the cartridge box.
Yep. Well, it used to be the cartridge box. No longer cartridges. There are days that I wish that shit would hit the fan, that we'd be sent back, that we'd have a major event that would put us down on our knees for a good period of time, and that those that pick up the pieces then would have a chance to update the Constitution as the country is rebuilding itself.
Yeah.
And to clarify things.
Unfortunately, it's either fortunately or unfortunately, it's coming sooner or later.
Yeah, maybe.
Even Rome collapsed.
True.
And friggin'.
Well, there's one problem with the theory, though. There are too many. There's too many people out there that have delusions of power and grandeur and all that other shit. And if it would happen, more than likely the United States would cease to exist. We'll end up being 4 or 5 different countries.
It'd be like the final fall of Rome, fortunately.
Yeah.
It'd be balkanization.
Correct.
And then everything would have to rebuild again, and be a long, painful process for everybody involved.
But the U.S. itself would never reconstitute. There's no way.
No, just like Rome, just like Greece never rebuilt and Rome never rebuilt, unfortunately. But there was always someone would always come at some point and take over the reins of being a republic.
Yeah. You'd have the Northeast would be their own little liberal bastion. You'd have the central states here, like Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota.
Appalachia would be Appalachia.
Well, that covers, though, from north to south, so I'm not sure who would be Appalachia, but you'd have the
Appalachia's
southern.
Their own thing.
You'd have the southern state. It'd be the southern central states: Tennessee, Kentucky, Georgia, Louisiana, maybe the West Virginia.
The Appalachian Mountain region would be separate from the states that's in, because the people up in the mountains are different.
Yeah, maybe.
They're the mountain people.
Yeah, well, my first wife was from there.
Appalachia's a very interesting place.
Yes, it is. It's gorgeous up there, too. I used to drive there every weekend to see her. I drove from Norfolk Naval Base.
There's still places in Appalachia that the U.S. is a third world country.
There's still places in Wisconsin like that. There's still places in Georgia and Kansas and every state I've been to, including Texas. So every state has it. It's just more prevalent because of the stereotyping that gets done on the media and new movies and all that shit.
And plus, the people I know people from the hollers up there, as they call it, and they want to live that way. They don't have running water or electricity, not because they couldn't if they wanted to. But they like living that way. They have lived that way for over 100 years. And they'll keep living that way.
And many states have people just like that. They're called the Amish. You've heard of the Amish?
Oh yeah, I know quite a bit about the Mennonites.
Well, Mennonites are different. Mennonites are one offshoot of the Amish, but the Amish are actually not anti-modern technology. Most people don't know that.
It all depends on which branch of the religion, and there's like.
Well, the primary Amish way of life, they're not anti-technology. They choose to use only technology that can make a difference in the sense of like their communities will allow a single telephone, for emergencies,
Like
that kind
now
of thing.
in Penn Dutch country in Pennsylvania, is the area I know people from and know about is each house is allowed to have a landline
Oh,
one
that's
electrical outlet.
yeah. We don't. That's here in Wisconsin. They don't have that. No way.
Yeah.
They're allowed to have a cell phone in the community for emergency use. They have no electric power at all. They have
And
no.
then
It's all hand tools and stuff like that. But it's all horse and buggy here, and
yep.
but they're some of the best carpenters and the best people
Oh, yeah.
around.
Most of the Penn Dutch don't allow cell phones at all. It has to be a landline.
Yeah. See, the Amish here are who framed this out for me in the basement for this man cave I have now, and they're gonna this next summer they're gonna come and frame out the rest of our full basement.
And then you have some more extreme traded up here in north of me, New Hampshire. There's actually still Quakers.
Yep, we got those. We still.
And they're even more hardcore.
Yep, we've got them.
The only way to become a Quaker is to join the community because they're not allowed to have kids or anything. 100% devotion to the religion.
Yeah, there's a small community of them here. We also have
They do make nice furniture though.
Yeah. We also have a large Indian tribe here. I don't know if you've heard of them, Ho-Chunk.
Nah.
Yeah, and they
got. But I knew there were big reservations up there though.
Yeah, and now they've got. There's I think Iroquois and Ho-Chunk are the two primary, and of course now they're taking advantage of everybody and putting in these casinos and shit.
Casinos, yep. Yeah, up here in Rhode Island we have a tribe that was declared extinct in the after the friggin' King Philip's War, before America was even a country. And all of a sudden, when all the casinos started heading, all of a sudden they reappeared, even though they had been listed as non-existent for over 300 years. All of a sudden, poof, they reappeared. Like, how does that work?
Yeah, here they were just quiet. They were always here.
Oh, yeah, most places they were, but there are some tribes like this one that friggin' literally they were considered to be wiped out after the Great Swamp Massacre during the King Philip's War. And that was in the friggin' what was it? It was in the 1500s or 1600s. Well, I'm gonna call it a night.
Yeah, as soon as I pick up my corpse, I'm gonna do the same thing.
Yeah, sorry about you getting killed.
No, it's not your fault. It's my fault for
I was distracting you.
Yeah. Actually, I was talking to you. I was doing something else, and I was flying. So it's not the talking I can do, but it was talking, doing something else, and trying to run a mining laser that did me in.
Overheated the rock.
Yep. Yeah, because I was looking at the wrong thing.
So I know tomorrow night's New Year's Eve.
Yep.
You gonna be on it or?
I don't know yet. It'll depend on how the wife feels when she gets home from work.
Yeah. I might be on, I might not be.
Yeah. It's I'm not expecting her to want to do anything, but you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
If you are on, you want to do anything, I need to make some money, so.
Yeah, so do I. So if I'm on, I'll let you know,
Okay.
and we'll go from there. All right.
Sounds good. Have a good night,
You
sir.
too. Night. different ship. I miss? Whoops. Damn it. Went too far. Too fast. Wow. Oh, really? So what? I'm not going to be able to loot it? Oh, there we go. Where's my weapons? my weapons disappeared. Normally they don't.